pretty short pieces. Webster 2, how to retain IT talent with goal alignment. Remember Conway's Law, using maintenance arc. Yeah, all of these are maybe half a dozen paragraphs at most. So they're very long. Webster number 3 is a bit of a longer read. That's an article for Cutter IT Journal. So let's talk for a minute about creating a requirements document. Challenge of requirements. Well, back to as Brooks said, a lot of customers don't know what they want until they actually see it. Now you have the advantage if you don't have any real customers. So you can look at it and say, yeah, that's what I want. Though one of the things you're going to find within your own teams is you're going to have disagreements as to what you want. Well, I think it should do this. Well, I think it should do this. That's why I have a project manager separate from the architect. The project manager says, okay, I'm deciding we're doing this. We'll push off, the others for later consideration. And then when you get about 3/4 of the way through, you're going to start saying, okay, let's take out some more features because we're not going to get all this done. The biggest risk of the true waterfall approach is analysis paralysis. You spend so much time trying to figure out what you're going to build, what you need to build, that you can never sort of pull the trigger and actually start developing. With the highly iterative agile approach, the risk you have is going down the blind alley. You didn't take enough time to think through what you want to do, and you, in essence, limited your architecture or design ahead of time, and you have to back up, or you get stuck on a local maximum. By which I mean, if you think of an XY plane with hills on it, Z, which is sort of the desirability of the product. And if you're doing a seeking for a slope going up, you can actually get on a local hill and reach the top of that and say, oh, I'm at the top, and you've got a hill twice as tall. It's a better solution over here. But with the agile approach, you often will get stuck on this solution because that's what you've iterated to, and you're not willing to go all the way back down to the plane and then iterate up to a higher solution. Also with agile, you have the risk, because of low-hanging fruit, you're trying to do this rapidly, you do all the easy stuff up front, and you defer the difficult to the end, which we've already talked about, which is one of the readings later on. You want to change control process. Decide who on your team is the gatekeeper for the requirements. And have a process as a team to decide how a requirement gets added or how it gets removed. I'm not going to grade or test you on that. I'm just saying this is something you want to do, or else you're going to have a hard time coming up with a set of requirements that is sufficiently fixed to get your work done. Your requirements should form the project baseline that defines what you're building. ARINC, the Iridium Satellite Project. Okay, they brought me on to be an architect because they didn't have any architecture, and they didn't have an architect. But literally the same day I started, Bob Millar came over from Motorola because they were late, they were behind schedule, and so on. And frankly, the few months I worked with Bob Miller were great. I learned so much from him. And one of the very first meetings where Bob and I are sitting in this conference room with the senior ARINC managers and engineers and so on. And Bob looks at him and says, where's your baseline? And they all look at him blank. And he says, where's your documentation that describes what you're building? And they all sort of look at him, sort of hem and haw, and he says, if you don't know what you're building, how do you know when you're done? And he said, and he only came once a week to ARINC, which is in Newport Beach. He was based out of Arizona. But he said, I'm going to ask every week to see your baseline. He said, what I want to see is a set of binders on this table that defines what you are building. And I sort of became the person who helped shepherd that through the other 4 days of the week he wasn't there. And within about 4 weeks, by golly, we had 2 thick binders that were the baseline for the project. And we actually delivered our next, this was not a final build, this was the first of builds that were going to go on for, or this was the next builds that were going to go on for another year or 2. But we actually delivered our build on time. There is a podcast on software requirements. Also, go back to the winter 2017 and look through the projects there and find a template for requirements document that you like that someone else used, and file off the serial numbers and put your stuff in there. You don't have to invent this from scratch. Define what you are not building. That's a very useful function. Sit down and make a list of what you aren't doing. At Pages, when we finally closed on venture funding, we hired our permanent CEO, Larry Spellhog from Xerox Ventura. One of the best things he did, he said, we're going to build a spreadsheet that's going to have every possible feature you can put into a desktop publishing system. And we did. We built a spreadsheet that had every feature that we could think of. And I had a lot of word processing experience. Xerox Ventura Publisher was a high-end desktop publishing system. Then we went through, and for every single feature, we said 1.0, later release, never. That was for about 650 features. So we defined out of that list of 650 features, all the features we wanted in our first release, all the features that we wanted but we're not going to try and put in our first release, and all the features that we would never try. Rotatable headlines was in the features we were never trying. He kept coming back and said, can't we do rotatable headlines? No, we can't.
So out of curiosity, who were the people and what were their roles that were making those decisions to rank those? I mean, was it, was the business strategy team in there, or was it marketing, or?
For that, we had the founders who were Mike Parker and Vic Spendler, graphic designer and typographer. Mike was a typographer, Vic was a graphic designer. We had me as chief architect. We had Larry because he actually had been in the desktop publishing industry. In terms of building the list, we had input from basically anyone who wanted input. Try to think more things. As far as the decision, it was a lot of hammer and tongs negotiation. Right? It's kind of like what's bare. I mean, the first level is really what's the bare minimum that we have to have to ship. What else would we like to have in 1.0? What would we like to have later? And what happened is the closer we got to shipping, a lot of those 1.0 features moved to become 1.x features, which is what you do. You buy time, you buy schedule time by deferring features. You'll want to keep your requirements document lightweight, but make it explicit as possible, and you're going to be revising. I mean, besides submitting it for a grade and possibly resubmitting for a higher grade, it's something you want to keep coming back to. Because one of the things you're going to do is you're back to armor. You're going to learn as you go along. Say, well, this sounded nice, but I'm not sure how well this feature is going to how much this feature is going to add. Or you're going to say, well, we just don't have time for this. So, for this week, create a first draft of it. Should be on your wiki by midnight Saturday. Oh, you will have created. Yeah, sorry, I should have edited that from the old screen. So it happens when you recycle slides. And then we'll do the same thing next Monday. Is I'll actually have someone from each team come up and take us through. It'll be a little longer. We'll go to your wiki. We'll bring up your requirements document and have you explain what you're building, why you're building it, and some of why you had the requirements. Any questions on this? In that case, let's take a 5-minute bathroom break for anyone who wants it, and then the remaining 45 minutes is team meeting. And I'll hang around at least for a while to answer any questions you may have. That's it. Thanks. You guys are great.